Sometimes you gotta pop out and show, nigga. Okay, so once upon a time in Black entrepreneur history, I got something for you. There was a man named Wesley Crayton. And guess what he was? He was noted as being a leader in Mississippi's business world, you guys, in the 1800s. A very popular saloon owner and whiskey dealer, as well as a respected politician. Let's get into it. Did I say he was one of the wealthiest men in Mississippi? Yeah, he was one of the wealthiest men in Mississippi. Black or white? Okay, now let's get into it. So Mr. Wesley Crayton was born in 1855 in Canton, Mississippi. Now, by the time he was 16 years old, he was time to move because he wanted to move because he wanted to make his own business. He wanted to start his own business. So 16, he moved to Vicksburg, Mississippi. And that was where he got a job at a hotel in order to save money to start his own business. Well, he ended up saving as much as he could, and it was $50. Now, $50 back then in the 1870s was about $1,500 today. Okay, so he had some funds. He had a little bit of funds, right? But he still wanted to own a saloon. Okay, so this guy named Joseph Dahl, who was the mayor-elect at that time, knew and was keeping watch on him. He was like, I like how this young man is moving. So what he did at the age of 21, right? He provided the venture capital or the money, the funds, for him to go ahead and start up his saloon. So and that's what he did. So at 21, Wesley Crayton was the owner of his own saloon. Now, it was really small at first, okay? It was really small, serving a very small counter. However, soon enough, he had 12 employees, okay? And it was serving more than what everyone thought it would, okay? He was really, really popular, and the people were coming in. He ended up owning one of the most successful businesses in the city of Vicksburg, okay? Vicksburg, Mississippi, that is. Keep in mind, this is Mississippi. Wesley Crayton's business was so good and so successful that even when the panic of 1893 happened, that whole economic collapse across the nation, guess whose business did not collapse? His saloon. And what was the name of his saloon? The name of his saloon was Blue Light Saloon. And you want to see an ad? There it is. Here are all the whiskeys and liquors and wines he would sell per gallon, okay? And he took payments multiple different ways. And this is a message to all the business owners out here, okay? If you have a business, make sure that you accept a variety of payment methods. Now let's get back to it. Not only did he sell liquors and wines and stuff like that, he also sold lunch, fish, picnics, whatever. And you could actually have it ordered on short notice, and he would go ahead and fix it up for you. So he had a whole business mind. Now, not only was he a great businessman, but he was also an awesome politician. He became the only black chairman of any national convention at that time in the 1800s. He was also elected alderman 5 terms, which means that was 10 whole years consecutive. And he was very instrumental in the town's policies, programs, and ordinances. Now, as far as his home and everything, it was one of the most elegant homes in the area, okay, that he shared with his wife, okay. He was married twice. After one passed away, then he remarried in 1920, but we'll get to that, okay? Now, Mr. Wesley Crayton may not be well known around the nation right now, but he was back then. And even Booker T. Washington visited his home, okay? And he had this to say, and I quote, "In speaking of the improvements which have taken place in the African American community, I must mention the case of a colored man in whose home I was entertained. It has been my privilege to see something of the homes of some of the best white people in every part of the North and West. And I do not exaggerate when I say that I have seldom been in the home of any white man anywhere in the country where everything was so attractive, convenient, and comfortable. I had not been in this home 5 minutes before the lady of the house asked me if I would not like to inspect her kitchen and pantry. And I found everything in the kitchen as neat and intelligently arranged as one would expect to find in a home in New England. The owner of the home to which I refer is Mr. Wesley Crayton, who is a successful businessman in Vicksburg. Mr. Crayton was often used as one of the several African American men and women back in those days to counter the negative stereotypes of Black American people. Black Americans trusted him. They trusted his word because he was a man of his word, and he also stood behind the Black community 100%. He fought tooth and nail, even taking some people to court and winning, okay, when they mistreated African Americans anywhere he saw them being mistreated. Now, Mr. Wesley Crayton was also a member of several organizations, so let me run them down, okay? He was a 32nd degree Mason, a Mystic Shriner, Knights Templar, Knight of Pythias. I'm not sure if I'm even saying that right. And he was also an Odd Fellow. He was also the vice president of two banking institutions that served African Americans, as well as the chairman of the Negro Business League in Vicksburg. Did I also tell you that he's a musician? Yeah, he was a musician, and he also had his own band, okay? The Wesley Crayton Silver Cornet Band. Period. Here's when things went left, though, okay? So Mississippi started passing these laws, right? And these laws were against the sale of alcohol in saloons and people drinking in saloons, okay? Especially African Americans, all right? So there were some groups who made it about African Americans and drinking and how it would endanger white women, okay? That was the times back then, right? And then there was another group who said they didn't want any alcohol sales at all on Sundays. And then there were another group that said they didn't want any alcohol sold to anyone, white or black, because it was breaking down the family. Okay. So all these people got together and they were like, okay, so they had a law passed. And in Mississippi, there was a prohibition of alcohol, period. Right. And then that went across the nation, I think a couple decades later, maybe a decade later. So it was in 1905 that Wesley Crayton had to file bankruptcy in order to prevent all this stuff from being taken and, the paying off of debts and everything like that, right? And then about a decade later, his wife, Henrietta, died. In that same year, 1916, he had 2 strokes. And this slowed him way down. He did remarry in 1920. However, 4 years after that, he passed away in his home. At the time he passed away, he'd already started running a grocery store. So he was still a businessman, the businessman that he always wanted to be. And the laws didn't stop him. He just opened a grocery store. Now, prior to his death, they named a street after him on Bryson's Hill. Now, one of the things that we can learn from Wesley Crayton is to go for what you want, never give up, and always fight for your people. And always give your people a great name while you're running that business.